Chapter 215 as a scoundrel. How great. Who are you? Took a deep breath. His mind was calm, so his performance would be smooth, composed, and natural. He tapped lightly on his leaf with the tips of his toes, and his entire body soared into the sky. He was light as a feather, as if there were no gravity or resistance to his movements at all, and the little snow lady on his shoulders didn't even quiver a bit. He drifted 5 to 6 meters forward before he tapped on the water's surface with the tip of his foot. Chilly air condensed into a patch of ice and supported his body as he glided forward. My name is Who Are You, and I'll be 17 this year. I am both a control type and assault type soul king, and I'm also a class 6 soul engineer. Once he stopped here, the girls before him all showed expressions of surprise. The golden crow holy lady was the most short-tempered, and she couldn't control herself as she raised her hand and said, Wait, eldest senior sister, there's something I don't understand. Can I ask him a question? Janla-san replied, just one. There won't be a next one. All right. Wu-Ming answered happily, then asked Who Are You? Are you deliberately giving yourself so many titles to attract the girls? Both control type and assault type? How is that separated? Are you telling me you have 2 martial souls? And you're a class 6 soul engineer on top of that? You're only 17 this year. Are you a fighter that can do everything? Who Are You? Smiled and said, greetings, senior sister. I do have 2 martial souls. My main martial soul is control type, while my secondary martial soul is assault type. I'm part of the soul tool department at the same time, so I'm also a soul engineer. I've just returned a few days ago from my exchange program at the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. Wu-Ming was stunned momentarily and asked in astonishment, twin martial souls? Who Are You? Had quite a reputation in the outer courtyard, but he didn't have much in the inner courtyard. Furthermore, he had been away from the academy for more than 2 years, and those people who had initially had an impression of him would have forgotten. The words twin martial souls were uttered once more, and several girls' eyes sparkled, especially the younger ones. The inner courtyard students were very clear on what having twin martial souls implied. If a soul master with twin martial souls could become a titled Douluo and obtain enough soul rings for his or her second martial soul, then this person would be able to challenge a formidable transcendent Douluo at rank 91. Furthermore, Who Are You? Twin martial souls for control type and assault type respectively, so one was complementary to the other. Janla-san smiled and said, continue, Yuao. You have 30 seconds left. Who Are You? Nodded in her direction and said, all of you must be a little tired after standing for so long. Everyone should know what the snow lady can do, so let me help everyone relax a little. As his voice dropped, the snow lady was telepathically connected to him, and she flew out at once. Orange gold light flickered as she came before the girls. Yeah. She called as the orange gold light became even denser than before. Who Are You? Flashed his own soul rings as well. 1 red and 4 orange soul rings rose up from beneath his feet. The blood red soul ring that had 4 golden lines and the 4 orange gold soul rings that followed closely behind it immediately became the focus of everyone's attention. Who Are You's entire aura skyrocketed, and he truly became like a sovereign ruler descending upon the world amidst the sparkling and dazzling soul rings. Everybody began to scream and exclaim in awe and bewilderment. Both the guys and the girls, both Janla-san and Bebe, and even the elders of the Sea Gods Pavilion and the various teachers all had their eyes fixed on Who Are You? Orange soul rings. What is happening? Shrek Academy was most meticulous with martial soul research, but in all their history of soul masters, which included evil soul masters, the body sect and all the other powerful soul masters, nobody had ever seen an orange soul ring before. Furthermore, there was a blood red 100,000-year soul ring before the 4 orange soul rings. The various opponents Who Are You had faced in the outer courtyard were less surprised. They knew that Who Are You possessed imitation, and these 5 soul rings were probably conjured by a said imitation to please the crowd. However, just when Who Are You released his 5th soul ring, he chanted under his breath, the fist and palm will freeze the heavens. The tiny snow lady pointed into the sky, and her fat little cheeks became as solemn as could be. Snowflakes drifted from the sky. They weren't so obvious in the beginning, but it didn't take long before voluminous snowflakes descended from the heavens. These snowflakes separated into 17 batches and circled around the girls, eventually congregating beneath their feet. The girls could immediately feel as if they were standing on solid ground, and a layer of thick solid ice with a diameter of over a meter instantly appeared beneath them. They no longer needed to use soul power to make themselves lighter, and they felt a lot more relaxed than before. The snow lady giggled and flipped back onto Who Are You's shoulder. Such formidable powers of control. The admiration and awe in the girls' eyes grew stronger, except for Wu Feng, whose expression turned even darker than before. This control of snow didn't belong to Who Are You, and Who Are You didn't manipulate anything at all. The snow lady was the one who had done everything. She was the ice ski snow lady, and also the snow empress, who was ranked number 3 amongst the 10 great savage beasts. Who else in the world could compare to her ability to control snow? Who Are You bowed slightly in an extremely elegant gesture before he slid back and returned to his original position, where he descended back onto his water lily leaf. He had further displayed the power of his spirit. He believed that after the blind date, the academy would probably seek him out very quickly. If he could obtain the support of both the academy and his inner courtyard seniors, then the research and experimentation with spirits could begin. Back in the Clear Sky Sect, the sect leader, Nui Tian, had said something that greatly moved Who Are You. The growth of soul beasts would never catch up to human soul masters. No matter how few soul masters there were, they would still accumulate power continuously, even if every soul master had 4 rings on average. That meant every soul master had to hunt and kill for soul beasts. While these soul beasts ranged from 10 years to more than 100,000 years old, if this was allowed to continue indefinitely, perhaps the world wouldn't have soul beasts with high cultivations anymore, and it was even possible that soul beasts could become extinct. The existence of spirits still couldn't resolve this problem, but it could alleviate it to some extent, and it could reduce the intensity of the conflict. Who Are You didn't know how far he could reach, but he was still willing to put in effort to try, so that he could make his own contribution in the conflict between soul masters and soul beasts. There was no doubt that he didn't really see the sea god's fate as a blind to date event anymore. His cultivation was more important. The only thing he was looking forward to was the girl who had displayed her second soul ring as a 1,000-year soul ring. However, Who Are You knew that his hopes only stood at 30%. Furthermore, even if that girl was indeed Wang Dong's sister, and she had the goddess of light's appearance, would she actually like him? How was he going to interact with her? He was truly a little lost. Who Are You's display didn't have that astounding emotion that he K2 possessed. However, he did show impressive abilities, and even though 5 rings was the lowest existence amongst the inner courtyard students, he had twin martial souls. Furthermore, he had a spirit, which was a very peculiar thing to have. Almost all the girls had developed an interest in him for one reason or another, and Who Are You left a strong impression on each and every one of them. Love at second sight continued, and every male student treasured this self-introduction phase to the best of their ability. After this round, they would only have to go through the 4th round before they could advance into the last round. Whether the girls chose them in the 4th round would determine everything, and everybody had to try their best to display and introduce themselves. Everybody here was a soul master after all, and the most commonplace method of performance was their strength. Finally, it was Shu Sanchi's turn. Shu Sanchi didn't look so well, and it was clear that he had been greatly affected when Jiang Nanan didn't leave her lamp on for him. Jiang Nanan frowned faintly and turned around. She didn't look at Shu Sanchi, who was gliding in her direction. Shu Sanchi gradually came to a spot 10 meters away from her and stopped. I'm back, Nanan. I don't know how many times I've confessed to you. My brothers are always asking me, how do I chase a girl? I tell them that you have to be courageous, meticulous, and your skin must be thick. This is especially true for the part about being thick-skinned. You really need to have that. If you can put your ego down and fight for her, there will always be a chance of success. The male students began to laugh softly when they heard his words. However, Shu Sanchi didn't laugh, and his face was exceptionally serious. Nanan, I've liked you ever since I first met you. I know that I gave you a bad impression all those years ago, but we've known each other for so long, from kids to teenagers, and all the way till now. I trust that you can see how I treat you. I can tell you that I will give everything I have for you, even my life, if I have to. I know that perhaps your answer today will be the same as always, but I still have to try as I always have, and I will never let the opportunity go even if I only have a single thread of a chance. Nanan, can you open up your heart and give me a little gap, so that I can give you love and passionate warmth? Shu Sanchi's confession wasn't that passionate, and it felt a little plain. However, one could tell tell that he was repressing something in that plain attitude. His eyes were determined and persistent, and there were deep-seated sentiments and emotions hidden deep within his eyes. Jiang Nanan finally turned around. When their gazes met, Jiang Nanan realized to her surprise that 2 rows of tears were sliding down the corners of Shu Sanchi's calm face, and his eyes were starting to turn red. In this moment, Jiang Nanan quivered, and anything that was said couldn't compare to the shock she felt when Shu Sanchi shed those tears in front of everyone. She definitely knew how Shu Sanchi had been to her over these years. She also knew that what Shu Sanchi said to her wasn't just for fun, and that he would actually give his life for her. But why did she care so much about what had happened in the past? Was what happened back then worth the fuss and dispute? However, that time left an impression in her that was far too deep. It had been more than a minute since Shu Sanchi had left his original spot, but nobody hurried him. No matter how this segment of the sea god's fate was supposed to be arranged, everyone was willing to wait for the scene of true emotion and feeling. Everybody's eyes were fixed on Jiang Nanan, who was 10 meters in front of Shu Sanchi. Jiang Nanan bit down on her lower lip and stared at Shu Sanchi's tear-filled face. She stared at his face that was as calm as ever, and there were several times when she wanted to speak, but nothing came out in the end. I understand now. Shu Sanchi didn't wait for too long. A sad smile broke out on his face, and he extended his arms to either side while his entire body fell backwards, as if he had lost all strength and balance. Even as he was falling backwards, his gaze was fixed upon Jiang Nanan from beginning to end. Tears flowed from his face, and there was too much love, unwillingness, and grief in his eyes. Kerplunk. Shu Sanchi dropped into the water, and water splashed everywhere. Shu Sanchi and his shield of the Swanwu turtle disappeared in a streak of lightning. His fall into the water meant he was out of this event, and his tears never stopped flowing even as he collapsed into the water. Men had tears, but they didn't come easy. They came from the deepest of heartaches. Shu Sanchi had known Jiang Nanan for 6 years, all the way till today. Shu Sanchi had been chasing her for 6 years without giving up, and he had been confessing to her continuously. However, all he got was rejection, as he had made a mistake 6 years ago that left a dark shadow in Jiang Nanan's heart that just wouldn't go away. He had put in too much effort over the past 6 years, but he had been rejected from beginning to end. Shu Sanchi had always been waiting. He had always been waiting for the clouds to part and for the sun to shine through the heavens, but the answer was always no. He was still rejected. Jiang Nanan stared with slack eyes as Shu Sanchi plummeted into the water, and her soul seemed to have departed her body. She felt her legs go weak, and she crumpled back onto the water lily. If not for the fact that Huo Yue had frozen her leaf into ice, she would have probably fallen into the water as well. Bastard. Jiang Nanan suddenly started to bawl, and she seemed to have lost herself as tears cascaded like a waterfall down her face. Why? Why are you always teasing me? Why? I've rejected you so many times, but why don't you give up? You're a big man now. Why are you crying? Why do you have to cry? Everyone fell silent as they watched Jiang Nanan's cries and her tears. The girls around her wanted to console her, but they didn't even know where to start. In the end, nobody knew what exactly had happened between her and Shu Sanchi. Jiang Nanan lay down on the water lily, and her voice became a little hoarse. Her heart was also filled with countless stifled passions and emotions. She stared at the gleaming reflection on the lake's surface. She suddenly muttered with a trembling voice, "Don't you go, you little shit." Shu Sanchi had shown her meticulous care and concern over the past 6 years. He had placed himself in peril and risked his life for her countless times. He had defended her against formidable enemies and protected her against the dangers of the world. She was also a human made from flesh and bone, and how could she not be aware of all this? However, there was no way she could accept him, and that was because the dark shadow in her heart ever since that moment was engraved too deeply within her. However, today, just now, when she saw the typically jocular and whimsical fella calmly shed tears for her, she could no longer control the repressed feelings and emotions in her heart. Her emotions crumbled, and she finally lost control over herself. In that moment when she watched Shu Sanchi fall into the water, she felt as if she were about to lose him forever. She felt overwhelming helplessness and panic in that moment, and she almost felt hopelessness rising in her heart. "Don't you go, you little shit." Jiang Nanan sobbed weakly, but the hopelessness in her heart only became stronger. She finally understood. She understood that she could never lose that scoundrel that hounded and annoyed her every day. Whoosh! The sound of water moving suddenly appeared in the cold ice beneath Jiang Nanan, and a head emerged from the surface. Jiang Nanan immediately stopped mumbling and glanced over with a pair of dazed and blurry eyes. He wiped the water from his face with his hands. His eyes were red and swollen, but there was a deep and warm smile on his face. "The little shit is here." Jiang Nanan was momentarily stunned as she stared at the impish smile on that pesky fella's face, but she didn't find it annoying and contemptuous anymore. She went from helplessness to getting everything back, and the emotions in her heart erupted like a volcano. She suddenly leapt forward and plunged into the water as she forced that bastard back into the water. Damn you. Shu Sanchi said nothing at all, as he was pressed underwater and just blowing bubbles. But those were bubbles of happiness. The girls walked with astonished eyes and slack jaws. The girl closest to Jiang Nanan felt tears well up in her eyes as she said, "Too passionate and touching. It's so nice to have your own little shit." Shu Sanchi hugged Jiang Nanan tightly in his arms, and it took some effort for him to resurface from beneath the water. Both of them were already drenched at this point. They gazed into each other's eyes in the water. Shu Sanchi gently pushed away the purple hair on Jiang Nanan's forehead that was covering her eyes. "You were the one who called me back. You have to be responsible." Jiang Nanan's face instantly blushed, and she lowered her head and whispered, "I'll think about it. I'll wait for you even if you need a lifetime to think about it." Shu Sanchi hugged her tightly in his arms once more as he spoke. Jiang Nanan feebly tried to resist, but then buried her head in his shoulder and didn't want to lift her head anymore. Clap, clap, clap. Everyone began to clap. Both the guys and the girls used thunderous applause to bless and celebrate the lovebirds before them. Shu Sanchi raised his left hand and waved his fist in the air. He turned around and looked towards Huo Yue and gave him a thumbs up. Shu Sanchi wasn't a god, and everything he had done couldn't have been a pretense. How could he return at the crucial moment? There was only one reason. He had the aid of spiritual detection sharing. Huo Yue had communicated Jiang Nanan's reaction, and even her voice, to him through spiritual detection. Shu Sanchi's hopelessness was converted into bewildering exhilaration, and he returned to Jiang Nanan's side in the nick of time and finally took her hand and won her over. If he had missed this opportunity, or if Jiang Nanan eventually recovered her rationality, he would probably have to put in effort to try again yet another time. Furthermore, he wasn't sure if he could have the same passion as before after today's deep hopelessness. Therefore, there was only heartfelt gratitude for Huo Yue at this moment. What did brotherhood mean? This was what it meant to be brothers, to aid each other in times of need. Huo Yue flashed a faint smile. His blood was riled up too as he watched Shu Sanchi and Jiang Nanan's embrace in the water. He could feel that his emotions were also rippling vigorously, and desire began to rise from his heart. Bei Bei was the host, but he turned around and away from everyone. Tears could be seen in his eyes as well, and there was a deep longing for the person he loved at this moment. "Where are you, Xiaoya? Hey, you two are spoiling the rules. This is just the third segment, but the two of you can go directly into the last segment." Jiang Lisun smiled as she spoke. Shu Sanchi laughed and said, "It's all my fault, eldest senior sister. I will apologize to you later, but we'll make a move first." He didn't intend to let everyone see what Jiang Nanan was like drenched, so the shield of the Swanwu turtle transformed into a dense black streak that enveloped the two of them and glided toward the shore on the other side. Jiang Lisun waved as she smiled. "Bless the two of you. Do you remember your confession to Jiang Nanan before this?" "Definitely." Shu Sanchi's voice echoed in the distance. Jiang Lisun glanced at Bei Bei, who still had his back turned, and she whispered, "Are you all right?" Bei Bei nodded and tilted his head upwards slightly. When he turned back around, a faint smile had returned to his face, but Jiang Lisun could vividly see the dash of despondence in the deepest recesses of his eyes. Jiang Lisun's body froze momentarily, but she quickly returned to normal. She smiled and said, "We shall begin the fourth segment soon. We have been through mutual feelings, love at first sight, and love at second sight. It's time to keep your love for 3 lifetimes. So the fourth segment is called 3 Lifetimes of Fate. The girls will take turns to introduce themselves in this segment, and they will choose the man that they like, and proceed to decide. The guys will be separated after this, so this allows for the charming guys to attract more than one girl. After this round, if one or several guys aren't selected, then I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave the event. Those that remain will proceed to the final segment." There was no question that more guys would be forfeited in the fourth segment. Jiang Nanan had left the 17-strong lineup, and 16 girls remained. Even if every girl chose a different guy, there could only be 16 people who could remain out of the 23 male students. The girls had the initiative during the fourth segment of the Sea God's Fate, and this was in line with the common saying, "Ladies first. You may begin." A point to note for the 3 girls who still have your conical bamboo hats. When you introduce yourselves later on, you may choose to take down your hats to reveal your appearance. If you still don't reveal yourselves or if you only give clues, then in the final segment, And unless the guys choose one of you, then you can't remove your bamboo hat till the end of the event. Now, can the girl with the first number tag introduce herself and make her choice? The girl with the first number tag tapped lightly on the water lily. There was firm ice beneath her feet, so there was a lot of strength in this push, and she drifted into the sky as if gravity wasn't acting on her. She spun around in place after she landed back on the water's surface, and a layer of white soul power rippled forward, pressing down on the surface of the water and stably lifting her into the air. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black soul rings hummed in rhythm. This young woman looked to be only 27 or 28. She wasn't that pretty, but she had an extremely gentle face, and seemed as amiable as could be. She didn't use any soul skills at all, relying purely upon control of her soul power to hover above the water's surface. It seemed easy and simple, but it was exceptionally difficult to control, and all the guys gave her a round of applause and calls of awe and admiration. Hua Yao also exclaimed his admiration. At least with his current cultivation, there was no way he could achieve that no matter how good he was at controlling his soul power. My name is Hua Yao, and my martial soul is the lotus. I'm a control type soul sage, and I am 31 years old. I wish to find a gentle and mild-natured man as my partner, while being plain and simple is the life I wish for. It was a simple introduction, but it gave people a fantastic impression. She was already 31 years old, but such an age gap wasn't really a problem in higher-level soul masters. Zhang Lisun smiled and asked, "So, who do you choose?" Hua Yao blushed faintly, and her figure started to drift forward. The fourth segment, the 3 lifetimes of fate, wasn't as simple as Zhang Lisun had just described. The girls faced a tough choice in this segment. Since they were going before the guys, they had to make sure they didn't fall into the water. The water couldn't take any weight at all, so it was hard to say whether they could last until the end of this segment and into the last one. Whether the guys that the girls chose would be courteous and chivalrous enough to give them their water lilies also represented their choices in the final segment. Hua Yao quickly came before the male students and surveyed the people before her. Her eyes finally landed on a male student that looked around 30 years of age. This man was tall and slender, his appearance quite typical, but he looked steady and composed. His performance in every round had been normal and orderly, and he hadn't displayed anything too special. Hua Yao could only remember that he had 7 soul rings. Hua Yao came before this man in a flash, and she greeted him subtly. The other men suddenly exclaimed and erupted in applause. Somebody was getting lucky today. The guy seemed a little surprised, but a delighted smile quickly appeared on his face. He said nothing at all, but he tapped lightly on the water lily, and he drifted 3 meters backwards as he made a courteous gesture to invite her onto his water lily. Hua Yao didn't dally around, and quickly landed on the water lily. She blushed a little as she nodded. The interaction between the two of them was done in complete silence, and the man was hovering in midair similar to the way Hua Yao had a while ago. However, right at this moment, a lotus flower suddenly appeared beneath his feet. The petals bloomed and took the weight of his body. Hua Yao had mentioned before this that her martial soul was the lotus. They exchanged a smile, and there was a feeling as if nothing needed to be said, and everything was embodied in the silence. The inner courtyard students didn't interact much from day to day, but becoming acquainted was natural. Everyone was too embarrassed to express their feelings on normal days, so the sea god's fate was the best platform to do so. Zhang Lisun smiled and said, "Gu Fan, your little dinky is about to become a ship." Gu Fan didn't talk much, and he bowed slightly in Zhang Lisun's direction, but there was no masking the excitement in his eyes. Zhang Lisun said, "All right, will the next girl please step up?" The girl with the second number tag was the one Hua Yao had been watching this whole time. Hua Yao immediately tensed up at Zhang Lisun's announcement. This girl was still wearing her bamboo hat. What choice would she make? The young woman soared into the sky, a layer of golden light enveloping her. Something that stunned everyone happened. She didn't say a word, nor did she take off her bamboo hat. She just flew directly towards the male students. Zhang Lisun couldn't help but say, "This girl seems a little unfamiliar. Are you not going to remove the bamboo hat and introduce yourself? Don't forget what I told you earlier." The young woman shook her head faintly in midair. She still said nothing as she drifted towards the men. She seemed as light as a feather, and flew 10 meters before she tapped lightly on the water's surface and began to fly forward once more. She covered 100 meters in similar fashion. 1 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black soul rings appeared. This was a combination that was better than the typical optimal combination of soul rings, and was enough to attract the men. This was especially true since this young lady hadn't revealed her appearance from the beginning of the event until now, nor had she spoken a single word, making her seem even more mysterious. Hua Yuao's fists were clenched tightly. His eyes were unmoving as he stared at the second girl, and he constantly asked himself, "Will she choose me? Will she choose me?" She was coming nearer and nearer. Everyone looked on as she came up before the men, and didn't pause for a moment as she actually descended towards Hua Yuao. The golden light suddenly disappeared around her, and she withdrew her soul rings as it seemed she was about to jump into the water. Hua Yuao couldn't even react in time. The tiny snow lady on his shoulders pointed a finger, and fired a dark blue ray of light onto the water lily. A piece of hardened ice that was a meter in diameter appeared beneath the girl's feet and took her weight. There was no doubt that Hua Yuao had the greatest advantage in this segment. There was a tinge of pleasant surprise in Hua Yuao's eyes, but he seemed more hesitant and uncertain. The girl turned around slightly, and her flowing powdery blue hair fell in front of her. Her hair flowed down from her shoulders like tidal waves as she let it out from the veil. She still refused to speak, and she didn't even open her mouth. However, this simple hint made Hua Yuao shudder violently. His speculation had finally been affirmed. The girl didn't speak, but perhaps that was because she was embarrassed. She didn't reveal her appearance, perhaps because she didn't want to attract the other men. In the end, if she was truly as beautiful as the goddess of light, then she would have been the most enchanting and alluring girl in this entire event. She must be Wang Dong's sister, Wang Qiua. Hua Yuao didn't hesitate any longer after this. He was no longer the blurred and confused teenager from before, and the warm passion merged with the figure that was imprinted in the deepest parts of his soul. Everyone took the initiative to express their feelings, so how could he have no reaction at all? Hua Yuao floated up from the water lily and shifted backwards, landing on the water's surface behind him as he gestured at the girl to say, "Please." In this moment, his heart's decision had been made, and whether he would end up with Wang Qiua in the end, she had given him a chance, and he would have to try to grasp the opportunity. She was his best buddy's twin sister, and she had the same appearance as the girl of his dreams. Was there anything more perfect than this? Even if his heart couldn't completely accept this, out of all the women here today, only this Wang Qiua, who had yet to reveal her appearance, attracted him. The young woman jumped forward gently and landed on the water lily before Hua Yuao. She nodded in his direction, but still said nothing. The water beneath Hua Yuao's feet was frozen into ice. He stared at the young girl several meters in front of him, wrapped in a long dress and still wearing her conical bamboo hat. He didn't know why, but a strong sense of familiarity rose from his heart and made him even more emotional. Why does she give me such a strong sense of familiarity? However, this sense of familiarity didn't feel the same as when he had first met Wang Qiua. Hua Yuao was a spiritual type soul master, so his perception was extremely sharp, and he was one to trust his feelings and instincts. This was especially so after he had obtained the Eye of Destiny, and his senses became even keener. Zhang Lisun smiled and said, "Looks like Hua Yuao has a lot of chemistry with this mysterious girl. Did you guys arrange this beforehand? We will find out in the final segment. Let's carry on." Several other girls came out after this, and everyone chose the guy that they liked. Nobody decided to give up their rights. It was finally Xia Xiao's turn. Xia Xiao looked up and stared ahead. The blush on her cheeks was still there, and her eyes even had a tinge of hesitation. Not far from her, Wu Ming laughed and said, "Listen to me, Xia Xiao. Never miss the best opportunity because you feel embarrassed. If you accept a man at the moment he loves you the most, then you will completely capture his heart. He will love you for a lifetime, and he will take even better care of you because he is grateful." Han Ruo laughed as well, and said, "Nina, seems like you know this quite well. Why haven't you captured one yet?" Wu Ming seemed rather vexed as she said, "There aren't any suitable ones." Xia Xiao nodded in their direction, and her embarrassed eyes finally flowed with toughness and determination. "Thank you, senior sisters." She zoomed forward as she spoke. Her movements were nothing like the women that had gone before her. She flew out, and 5 soul rings immediately appeared on her body. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black. There was no question that she was relatively weaker than the other ladies. She was a 5-ring soul king, and she was undoubtedly unable to levitate and hover in the air without external forces. However, Xia Xiao had her own abilities. Just when she was coming to the end of her trajectory, an enormous cauldron appeared beneath her. She landed lightly on it, and paused on top of it. A strange scene occurred immediately afterwards, as she actually vanished along with the huge cauldron, and reappeared 30 meters further along. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.